This brand just sent me this watch and I'm going to review it honestly and brutally. This is the Watch Dives WD-005B. Yeah, they need to work on the name a little bit. That said, I have been quite impressed with this watch. Definitely not taken aback, but definitely not offended either. Just in that pleasant, pretty good sort of mind space on it, especially because it is at $179 on the early bird sale right now. And at the end of the day, the big question of the video is this a hidden gem or should you save your money? Anyways, let's get into the unboxing. And of course, as I unbox this actually pretty decent travel case, if you learn anything new or just enjoy the video, a like and a sub really do help out. And yes, this will be affiliate linked in the description. Just means if you buy it, I end up getting a teeny little cut, which helps out because each of these videos takes like 15 to 20 hours to make. Anyways, here we go. First impressions. Ooh, damn. That dial is stunning. Wow. Look at that. Sheesh. Okay then, so that ice crack dial is doing all the heavy lifting there. Let's just take off all of this. Okay, there we go. So yeah, there we are. Look at that dial. Wow, look how it pops. Okay, that is really nice. It's almost like shattered glass in a way. Very attractive. If I tilt it into the light, look at how that pops. Very, very nice. Now, I will say, however, this is not at all subtle. It's a little bit like a peacock. It is nice, but it's definitely going to be a Marmitey watch. Like, you're either going to love this or hate it. Very impressive anyways. I am definitely a fan of that first impression and dial. Coming in close, let's have a look at those applied indices, and very, very nicely done. I don't see any easy to see QC issues or manufacturing errors, which is always a good thing. They look pretty tidy. The print also looks very tidy. Or no, that's even an applied logo, which is very, very nice. Handset contrasts nicely. Everything there is very, very nice. There's also no date clutter, which I think is definitely preferred for this type of watch. But again, that is very attention grabby and showy. So I feel a lot of you watching aren't particularly going to like that dial, although maybe a lot of you will. One thing that is actually quite impressive is because of the way that it contrasts darker on the outside of the dial. The indices do definitely pop quite a bit, and they are very, very legible, which is what you like to see on a daily. If you do hate attention though, this colour definitely probably isn't your friend, and this is one of the more laid back colours. I believe they have like purples and pinks and stuff, so there you go. Now on top of that, you seem to have a domed sapphire crystal, which seems pretty good. It doesn't stand out too much or anything. In fact, there might even be a flat sapphire crystal. Is the spec sheet I was sent wrong? No, it is domed. It's just very, very slightly domed, so there you go. That's good to keep it nice and thin. And if I tilt it towards my spotlight, you can see that the AR coating is good. Definitely takes the edge off, but it's not absolutely standout perfect. Although you're still always going to get a little bit of reflection, because at the end of the day, it's a reflective surface, so there you are. At $179 though, you definitely can't complain about that level of AR coating, or obviously just the fact it has a sapphire crystal. That is very, very nice to see for the price. Moving on to the profile though, have a look at that case. That is very, very nice and slim. I believe it is about 39mm across, 45.5mm in lug to lug, and it says 12.4mm thick, which I suppose is about right, but it sort of feels thinner than that. I think it's going to wear a bit slimmer than the actual spec sheet would suggest. Checking out unsized on my wrist, let's just have a quick look there. Yeah, that fits pretty nicely, man. That is definitely hugging the wrist well. I'm definitely a fan of that. I do think it could be a tiny bit more compact, but, you know, day to day, that would work very nicely with my small wrists, which means that it would work even better on someone who has actual man-sized masculine wrists, not my girly little ones. The case also has obviously a brushed finish, but it does have chamfers, which seem As I can try and show the screen here. There you go. They seem pretty well done. I'm definitely not displeased with that. Not bad at all. They seem quite sharp. The transition seems quite nice as well. Definitely not razor sharp or San Martin level or anything, but it's definitely not sloppy either. I can run a finger along it and it feels very, very nice. And yeah, that's reflecting light very nicely. I am very impressed with that. Nice. Let's have a look at that crown though. What's the action like? Okay, nice. So screw down. That is what you want on a daily. Okay. Doing it the wrong way. Professional watch review, by the way. There you go. Look at that. That is some very, very nice. I do not have to put much effort into that at all. That is buttery smooth. Wow. That has absolutely no grit whatsoever. Very nice. That is nice to play with. Let's just get it to the good old 11 or 10 past 10. Put it back in. How's it screw back? Nice. Okay, that crown is very nice. It also seems like it has some pretty decent branding on there as well. We'll try and show the camera. Yeah. Nicely done. Very, very subtle. Very, very nice. I am impressed with that. Okay, so crown is pretty good. I do believe it also has 100 meters of water resistance, which is obviously going to be great. And the screw down crown really solidifies that. So there you go. This is a true form daily beater. The bracelet and clasp. I mean, you know what? That is extremely tight. Wow. And that finishing as well. That is very well done. See, usually on affordable watches like this, even from AliExpress where they're incredible quality, the bracelets are all manufactured in one place. They're pretty much all the same and they're a little bit jangly. They move a little bit, but no, this is... I mean, the only reason that's giving is because of going straight into the actual lugs there. But the bracelet itself is... I mean, I'm really trying to move that. That is very, very tight. I do like that design as well. It's very attractive. Nice polish. It reminds me of the Grand Seiko bracelets. And with, obviously, everyone saying Grand Seiko bracelets aren't the best, this probably isn't even far off of one. Very impressed there. Nice. Looking at the clasp, though, which we'll actually just peel. Oh, lovely. Finishing seems very good. Branding seems very good. However... slight disappointment having that as just normal micro adjustments. An on-the-go micro adjustment system really does make a world of difference. But again, get back in focus. I can't really complain because it's not even $200. So there you are. But that's one thing that would be nicer to have, an on-the-go micro adjustment system. I won't complain too much though, because overall that bracelet is very, very nicely made, very nicely finished. And look at that. That drapes very nicely as well, which means that this wears true to size, which is absolutely perfect. Let's check that lume though. Bravo 6 going dark, and wow, look at that. That is some very, very nice lume. I believe BGW 9, but that glows a lovely shade of blue. Very, very nice, very, very legible. I even have a light on, as you can see, since you can see my hands, but it still stands out even in that. That is some really, really well done lume. I am impressed. Movement-wise, apparently this has just the good old Miyota NH35. Now, there is nothing wrong with that. It's reliable, hacking, hand-winding, you know, very easy part availability, and every watchmaker on the planet knows how to deal with it. But it is a tiny bit boring because every single cheap AliExpress or microbrand watch uses an NH35, and at $200 there's not really much you could get better. You could maybe, pushing your luck, try for a Miyota 9000 series, which would be absolutely incredible. That would really bring up the value of this timepiece, but that is a tall order because that sort of thing happening is, you know, that's when it's a standout insane piece. But even like a PT 5000, which is a, I believe, Chinese ETA 2824-2 clone, that's still pretty good, and I would still probably pick that over an NH35. But, you know, still pretty good. Accuracy of like 10 to 20 seconds a day. Definitely not bad, but PT 5000, you know, keep it Chinese would have made sense. Overall, though, keeps it thin enough, and does the job, although you can definitely hear it if you shake it a little bit. But, not too bad. Let's get closer up here, though, and talk about the finishing, because obviously, pretty big. Finishing and build quality are what make a watch feel and look expensive. And here, definitely very, very good. That is some superb finishing and superb build quality as well for the price. Again, that bracelet has some lovely, lovely finishing. But even the case as well, the chamfers and everything, very nicely done. Reflect light nicely. The brushing there is very well done. Overall, that finishing is really, really nice. Brushing's even, polishing's good, very nice and reflective. It all works very well. I like the way that they've done, like, brushed on the side here at the bottom of the fixed bezel, but then polished on the top. It gives it that three-dimensional look without making it too overly thick. Definitely very good finishing and build quality. Impressed with that, and definitely quite happy with it as well. I will say it's competent and decently flashy, but it's definitely no, stand out like San Martin where it's competing with £1,000, £2,000 watches, but still definitely very, very, very good for the price. Now let's get this sized for my wrist so I can actually show you me wearing it. Looks like we have, shame, just normal pins. That's fine though. Okay, so here we go. Now sized for my wrists. Let's slip her on. I know, there. That's pretty good. Alright, feels pretty comfortable. Let's just get that. Yeah, looks pretty good. Definitely not an ugly watch. Fits the wrist very nicely. Seems to be hugging it. Not too thick. Doesn't stand out. That would definitely fit under a cuff or anything, which is obviously what you want to do. At 39 by 45.5 lug to lug, it's probably just about at the height of what I can wear. I generally have smaller wrists and prefer about 36, 37, but it's definitely not a bad size, and it's definitely well proportioned, so there you go. That dome is nice on the crystal because it doesn't stand out quite too much, but it still gives that nice distortion on the edges. Weight is a nice middle ground, and they even say in the actual box that it comes with that if your wrist is about 15 centimeters, you can even leave a note and they'll size it for you, which is nice. Obviously they are pinhole though, so it's not particularly as nice to work with as, let's say, obviously screws, but it's still not bad. They do the job. Nothing wrong with them. They're just a little bit bland. And it does even seem to come with an actual tool for it, which I didn't even use. I just used it the old-fashioned way, which is with a good old one of these and one of these. But there you go. This probably works a bit better for those who aren't as accustomed to switching around and changing links, which is useful. That said, though, there are definitely a few issues with this piece. For example, that clasp is not very good. The clasp does the job. The finishing is pretty good. There's nothing wrong with it there. It just could be a hell of a lot better. Obviously, milled would have been nice, and obviously even more than that, an on-the-go micro adjustment system would have been nice, but can't ask the world of something that only costs $179. The loom is also really good, but it's definitely not like legendary standout, like a full loom dial or anything. The NH35 is a monster, and it's great, and it's reliable, but could have been something a bit more interesting, like a PT5000, Miyota 9000 series. Another thing I will mention is that it does actually have a 20mm lug to lug and a quick release system, which is gorgeous to see. That means that you can easily switch this out for plenty of bracelets. 20mm is like the most common one that there is, just in general. And obviously, if you're allergic to like distinct, standout and interesting dial texture, you want something versatile and basic, this very much so isn't for you because that dial is insane. But if you want fun, if you want reliable, if you want very well made for a very good price with good enough specs like a sapphire crystal with AR coating, a screw down crown, 100 meters of water resistance, an NH35, etc., it's a very practical, very attractive daily piece. And if that dial stands out to you in particular, as well as just obviously the design in general, like for example this bracelet is again really, really nice, I don't think that you need ultra premium clasp tolerances, laser crisp beveling, or anything like that. And you're not going to find it at that price range, right? This is as good as it's going to get for the price that it is. I would definitely put this brand, Watch Dives, at least with this release I've been hands-on with, on probably the best value AliExpress brands in and around that hundreds, 50 to 200 sort of range, because this piece is absolutely impeccably made. Overall, though, for $179, I'd say that this is an overall pretty great value piece to go for if you're okay with that more out there sort of dial and you still want specs and quality that's good enough to wear day to day. It's not perfect, and it's definitely not like San Martin or anything where you're looking at it and it's as good as a $1,000 watch, but it's a really good damn piece for a really good damn price. And the only issue I could see with it is probably that dial being very out there and marmitey. But if you like it, that doesn't matter anyway. The objective facts are that it is a very well-made watch for a very low price. And for that being the case, the verdict is, I think it's a hidden gem. Anyways, tell me what you thought of this watch in the comment section, but also this video. I've tried something a bit different than my usual, sort of going hands-on with the microphone while handling the watch rather than taking footage beforehand and talking about it after, if you know what I mean. I thought maybe getting my first impressions and such might be a little bit more fun. And hey, I'm early in my career, so I may as well try out a few different things, right? With that said though, I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, like and subscribe. And with that, never forget, time keeps ticking, so use the time you have wisely.